Most of us learned about the Black Plague in elementary school and always wondered what caused it. They told us about rats, fleas, and pestilence, but there is one historical account they held back. One that was well documented with dates and times that line up. So let's take a look today at what they did not want us to know about. For the truth sets us all free. This account of the progress of the plague as it made its way across Europe was written by Jean de Venette, a 14th century French friar who lived through the events he describes. The Confession of Agimet of Geneva, Châtel, October 20th, 1348. The year of our Lord 1348, on Friday, the 10th of the month of October, at Châtel, in the castle thereof. There occurred the judicial inquiry which was made by order of the court of the illustrious prince, our Lord Amadeus, Count of Savoy, and his subjects against the Jewish people of both sexes who were there imprisoned, each one separately. This was done after public rumor had become current and a strong clamor had arisen because of the poison put by them into the wells, springs, and other things which the Christians use, demanding that they die, that they are able to be found guilty, and therefore that they should be punished. Hence this their confession made in the presence of a great many trustworthy persons. Agimet, the Jewish man who lived at Geneva and was arrested at Châtel, was there put to the torture a little, and then he was released from it. And after a long time, having been subjected again to torture a little, he confessed in the presence of a great many trustworthy persons who are later mentioned. To begin with, it is clear that at the Lent just past, Pultus Classus Durans had sent this very man to Venice to buy silks and other things for him. When this came to the notice of Rabbi Peyret of Chambori, who was a teacher of their law, he sent for this Agimet, for whom he had searched. And when he had come before him, he said, "We have been informed that you are going to Venice to buy silk and other wares. Here, I am giving you a little package of half a span in size, which contains some prepared poison and venom in a thin, sewed leather bag. Distribute it among the wells, cisterns, and springs about Venice, and the other places to which you go, in order to poison the people who use the water of the aforesaid wells that will have been poisoned by you, namely, the wells in which the poison will have been placed." Agimet took this package full of poison and carried it with him to Venice. And when he came there, he threw and scattered a portion of it into the well or cistern of fresh water, which was there near the German house, in order to poison the people who use the water of that cistern. And he says that this is the only cistern of sweet water in the city. He also says that the mentioned Rabbi Peyret promised to give him whatever he wanted for his troubles in this business. Of his own accord, Agimet confessed further that after this had been done, he left at once in order that he should not be captured by the citizens or others, and that he went personally to Calabria and Apulia and threw the above-mentioned poison into many wells. He confesses also that he put some of this same poison in the well of the streets of the city of Balais. He confesses further that he put some of this poison into the public fountain of the city of Toulouse and in the wells that are near the Mediterranean Sea. Asked if at the time that he scattered the venom and poisoned the wells above mentioned any people had died, he said that he did not know, inasmuch as he had left every one of the above-mentioned places in a hurry. Asked if any of the Jewish people of those places were guilty in the above-mentioned matter, he answered that he did not know. And now by all that which is contained in the 5 books of Moses and the scroll, he declared that this was true, and that he was in no wise lying, no matter what might happen to him. The cremation of Strasbourg jury, St. Valentine's Day, February 14th, 1349, about the Great Plague and the burning of the Jewish people. In the year 1349, there occurred the greatest epidemic that ever happened. Death went from one end of the earth to the other, on that side and this side of the sea, and it was greater among the Saracens, non-Christians, especially Muslims, than among the Christians. In some lands, everyone died so that no one was left. Ships were also found on the sea laden with wares. The crew had all died, and no one guided the ship. The Bishop of Marseille and priests and monks and more than half of all the people there died with them. In other kingdoms and cities, so many people perished that it would be horrible to describe. The Pope at Avignon stopped all sessions of court, locked himself in a room, allowed no one to approach him, and had a fire burning before him all the time. This last was probably intended as some sort of disinfectant. And from what this epidemic came, all wise teachers and physicians could only say that it was God's will. And as the plague was now here, so was it in other places, and lasted more than a whole year. This epidemic also came to Strasbourg in the summer of the above-mentioned year, and it is estimated that about 16,000 people died. In the matter of this plague, the Jewish people throughout the world were reviled and accused in all lands of having caused it, through the poison which they are said to have put into the water and the wells. That is what they were accused of, and for this reason many were burnt all the way from the Mediterranean into Germany, but not in Avignon, for the Pope protected them there. Nevertheless, they tortured a number of them in Bern and Zofingen, Switzerland, who then admitted that they had put poison into many wells, and they also found the poison in the wells. Thereupon they burnt the Jewish people in many towns and wrote of this affair to Strasbourg, Freiburg, and Basel in order that they too should burn them. But the leaders in these three cities in whose hands the government lay did not believe that anything ought to be done to them. However, in Basel, the citizens marched to the city hall and compelled the council to take an oath that they would burn them, and that they would allow none of them to enter the city for the next 200 years. Thereupon they were arrested in all these places, and a conference was arranged to meet at Benfeld, Alsace, February 8, 1349. The Bishop of Strasbourg, Berthold II, all the feudal lords of Alsace, and representatives of the three above-mentioned cities came there. The deputies of the city of Strasbourg were asked what they were going to do about the Jewish people there. They answered and said that they knew no evil of them. Then they asked the Strasbourgers why they had closed the wells and put away the buckets, and there was a great indignation and clamor against the deputies from Strasbourg. So finally the bishop and the lords and the imperial cities agreed to do away with them. The result was that they were burnt in many cities, and wherever they were expelled, they were caught by the peasants and stabbed to death or drowned. The town council of Strasbourg, which wanted to save them, was deposed on the 9th to the 10th of February, and the new council gave in to the mob, who then arrested the Jews on Friday the 13th. On Saturday, that was St. Valentine's Day, they burnt them on a wooden platform in their cemetery. There were about 2,000 people of them. Those who wanted to baptize themselves were spared. Some say that about 1,000 accepted baptism. Many small children were taken out of the fire and baptized against the will of their fathers and mothers. And everything that was owed to them was canceled, and they had to surrender all pledges and notes that they had taken for debts. The council, however, took the cash that they possessed and divided it among the working men proportionately. The money was indeed the thing that killed them. If they had been poor, and if the feudal lords had not been in debt to them, they would not have been burnt. After this wealth was divided among the artisans, some gave their share to the cathedral or to the church on the advice of their confessors. Thus were they burnt at Strasbourg. And in the same year, in all the cities of the Rhine, whether free cities or imperial cities or cities belonging to the lords. In some towns they burnt them after a trial, in others without a trial. In some cities they themselves set fire to their houses and cremated themselves. It was decided in Strasbourg that no Jewish person should enter the city for 100 years. But before 20 years had passed, the council and magistrates agreed that they ought to admit them again into the city for 20 years. And so they came back again to Strasbourg in the year 1368, after the birth of our Lord. That concludes the account. I hope you enjoyed this account of the history of the Black Plague and its surrounding events. See you next time.